Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I've got my good friend Toby with me again today. I'm going to be breaking down everything that happened in game week 10 in the Premier League with a particular focus on Arsenal, Nottingham Forest and the title race so far. But Toby, I really just want to throw it to you, mate, because Arsenal, 10 matches played. People say don't look at the table until 10 games and, at the moment, Arsenal 5th. What do you make of the season as a whole so far? Is it going well? Is it not going so well? Are you happy with the recent results? Just what are your general thoughts, mate?
I mean, if you would have asked me that maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think I would have said that the play and the way that we're playing isn't particularly great, but it felt like despite that, we were still getting a few decent results. I mean, we had the win at Villa away, we had the win at Spurs away, and we had the draw at City away, which I think are all really good results. And even though we may not have played as well as we had, say, last season or the season before that in those fixtures, the fact we were still getting results, I think, was a huge thing and is the most important thing, especially in the league in football. However, I think now that has flipped, and with our last 3 Premier League games, no wins, the loss to Bournemouth away, and now the loss to Newcastle away, it does feel like that has changed from not just maybe playing as well as we have or playing as exciting football as we had to now not picking up those results as well. And that's where I think a big worry has really come in from Arsenal fans, is because we're not getting those results either.
Would you say this is unexpected? Because, like you said, you haven't been playing great so far this season. I think you've had some great performances in spells. I mean, to be fair, I think the Spurs game you played really well throughout. I think the Man City game you played really well throughout, and despite the fact you went down to 10 men. But there is a general feeling, I think, around Arsenal that, I don't know, maybe the Aston Villa game, I think Villa probably were the better side on the day, but it is about getting those 3 points. You could maybe argue that, defensively you haven't been as solid as you were last season. I think going forward as well, there's something a little bit missing. Do you feel like this has been coming for a little while, or is it something that has just come out of nowhere for you?
I think this season it probably has been coming, looking at the way we've been playing. As I said, if you look 2 seasons ago when we had that sort of unexpected title race where we did end up finishing second, it felt like we were playing really exciting football, really attacking football. Then you look at last season is where our defence improved. Maybe not as front-footed and exciting as the season before, but I think we improved on that by improving our defence and looking really solid. Whereas now this season, it feels like that attacking style of football has completely dropped off, and the defence has potentially even got a little bit worse. So it feels like those two really good aspects from the 2 previous seasons has decreased this season. And I think the way that we're playing at the moment, where that defence is still decent enough, and maybe that attacking confidence and that sort of direct approach isn't there, I think that suits the big games a lot better, like we saw with Villa, like we saw with Spurs, like we saw with City, where you're coming up against one of the top opponents. You need that defence potentially more than you need that attack. Whereas now it seems like the games that we probably should be winning, where we should be controlling possession and creating lots of chances, we're not creating those chances at all. And it is those games where you probably should be winning and we're not creating the chances where the problems are really lying, like the Newcastle and Bournemouth game. Yes, we've conceded a goal or two in those games, but you'd hope that we'd be able to get at least a goal or two back and get something out of those games. And that's where it seems to be missing for me at the moment is the attacking side of our game and our chance creation, especially since Odegaard's injury. And that is a huge key point, is where we have completely fallen off.
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about that Arsenal game. I didn't catch it live. I ended up catching the highlights of match of the day, and it did seem like as soon as Newcastle went 1-0 up, and then the emphasis was put on Arsenal to go and break Newcastle down, it did seem like Arsenal just kind of ran out of ideas and ran out of ideas quite early on in the game. It did feel very monotonous, and there was a lack of ball progression from that midfield to the forward players in dangerous areas. Martin Odegaard is such a crucial miss, and it's always players always get better when they're not playing. So Martin Odegaard all of a sudden is, well, he probably was before he was actually injured, was a world-class player who Arsenal were relying on to be the talisman and unlocking a defence. William Saliba, when he got injured 2 seasons ago, was all of a sudden Arsenal's best defender, and he probably was at the time. But it really brings to everyone's forefront and highlights to them how important these players really are. And I think it's the same could probably be said for Emil Smith-Rowe and Fabio Vieira, who are obviously, Smith-Rowe is now gone to Fulham permanently, Vieira's on loan at Porto. All of a sudden, everyone's like, we've got no creativity in the midfield. Thomas Partey, Rice, and Marino, but they're all too similar. None of them can progress the ball really beyond the the defensive lines of the opposition. And now everyone's saying that, we'd let them go. But really, I don't think Arteta really trusted either Smith-Rowe or Vieira. He just wasn't giving them the minutes, and that inadvertently tells me that he doesn't trust them. And so, yeah, maybe they could have been the answer. Maybe they should have been kept at the club. What are your thoughts on the situation as a whole? Because a lot has been made about the transfer market now that's in hindsight and 10 games afterwards, and everyone's an expert now. But what do you make of it at the time, and has that changed now?
Yeah, I think the Marino signing was one that we definitely needed, and I don't think it was a case that we should have signed sort of that number 10 backup as opposed to Marino. I think maybe we either should have held on to one of Smith-Rowe or Vieira for this season and signed Marino, because last season Marino is exactly the sort of player that we needed to cover someone like Rice, or to play alongside Rice in some games, and he has played and looked really good, Marino, since he's come in. But I'm not sure what the plan was for if Odegaard gets injured, or to rest Odegaard this season. In terms of resting Odegaard, it seems like the obvious player was and has been Ethan Nwaneri. Looking at the two League Cup games that he's played in against Bolton and Preston, he was exceptional. He looks really confident, so technically good on the ball, and really, really similar in terms of play style to Martin Odegaard. However, it just doesn't seem that Arteta trusts him enough just yet, or doesn't want to put that pressure on him to play him in the Premier as what would be a pure Odegaard replacement. And it does feel like we have really, really missed that style of player, whoever that may be. As you said, Smith-Rowe and Vieira, I think, could have certainly filled in that void in those games. There would be a drop in quality, but I think having a replacement player in the system that has worked so well for the last 2 years is a much better option than attempting to almost completely change the system that we play because Odegaard has been missed. We've seen Arteta try and fill that void with Trossard almost playing as a number 10. Didn't really seem to work. Playing three in the midfield of Jorginho, Partey and Rice, or Partey, Rice and Moreno, and it just doesn't work. And now it seems like the system without Odegaard has changed to that sort of 4-4-2 flat that we see sometimes when we're defending, to almost the whole game now, and it just doesn't click, and it just really restricts our attacking play. And I think, like you said, if we had someone to fill in and step into the Odegaard role and not change the system, like I would have loved to see Nwaneri, and I think he probably should have played in this Newcastle game. It's just not worked recently. And how long is Odegaard going to be out for? Is he going to be back soon? It seems like it. But now it's almost going to have to be a case of bringing him back in and then getting the system back to how it was when he was there, which is, again, is just going to be a big, big change.
Yeah, it's easy to look on paper and then look at the squad list and go, okay, we've got 2 players for each position. But if Arteta doesn't use those players, like if he doesn't use one area, then you really don't have that squad depth behind Martin Odegaard. And so that's what I've really found interesting about Arteta, and that's what I'm learning about him and what his ideas about the squad is, because, he doesn't have to say anything. We can tell from his actions, the way that Pep Guardiola just, bombs Calvin Phillips out of his squad, regardless of the fact that what he says might be like, oh, he's really good and feel so bad I can't give him game time. Regardless about how much Arteta says one area is so talented and gifted and he can't wait to use him, if he's not playing him on the pitch, then that tells me all that I need to know. And it is one where I do agree with you in the fact that even though Martin Odegaard isn't there, you still need a player picking up the ball in the same positions. I don't see anyone in that half space for Arsenal. And when I do see it, I see it in Kai Havertz, which I'm finding a bit annoying, because I think finally with Havertz, you found a player who his best position for Arsenal, maybe he's not a world-class striker, but his best position is being that striker, or perhaps even as a false nine, causing centre-backs chaos and just dismantling everyone and holding the ball up and getting an odd goal and an odd assist. But now you're taking him away from everything that we've established last season was really, really good. And for me, that's another cog you're taking out and is now being less efficient because you're trying to fill the Martin Odegaard hole, which at the moment seems like the biggest hole in the whole midfield. And so, yeah, it's really weird, because Ethan Nwaneri, while being only 17, it is a lot of pressure, like you said. But if you're good enough, you're old enough. And the alternative, I guess only Arteta and the Arsenal coaches know how good one area is. And like I said, maybe because he's not playing, he's becoming a bigger thing than it actually is. Maybe he just isn't good enough at the moment. But I would like to see him have a go. I remember thinking before the Bournemouth game, okay, maybe this is the one where Arteta's going to play him. And just when you see his qualities in the League Cup, you think, oh, go on, you really want him to play. And it is one where when you're losing, everything's the worst thing in the world, and when you're winning, everything's amazing. Maybe it's one where just Arteta didn't expect Martin Odegaard to be out for this long a period of time, and yeah, he's your captain as well, so maybe that has another effect as well. That maybe something people aren't realizing. But yeah, it does feel like Arsenal are almost playing as if they have a man down. They're down to 10 men before the whistles even start, and that's something that Arsenal just simply cannot afford to do.
Yeah, and like you said, with Nwaneri sort of giving him that chance. I mean, we had that with Bukayo Saka. I know he obviously was starting at left back when we were in a bit of an injury crisis and we didn't have any almost natural left backs who were fit, able to play at the time. But he was given the chance. He had one good game on his debut and just carried on playing, carried on it forward. Maybe Arteta in that sense is thinking if Nwaneri comes into the Prem, plays really, really well, and then Odegaard is obviously coming back and Nwaneri is going to have to drop back down to the bench, is that going to be a bit of a knock to him? Obviously with it not being a long-term replacement of Nwaneri for Odegaard. But I still think he should be given the chance and be given a little bit more opportunity in that squad whilst it's there before it goes, because the rest of the season it is likely that Odegaard's going to come back in. Nwaneri will be stuck to the cup games, and whilst he's playing really well in the League Cup, it does feel a bit of a disappointment to miss him out. In terms of Arsenal overall as well, it isn't just Martin Odegaard being missed, as you said earlier in your point, that it does feel like we're missing a lot of the things that we were doing really, really well last season, and the way that we were controlling games and keeping that possession high whilst really, really attacking and really, really pressing at times. It now feels almost like the way that we're controlling games when we do, and which we haven't done for the last few games, is in terms of restricting our opponents and preventing them from doing what they want to do, as opposed to going out with our own game plan and really implementing that. And I think that was something that was really underlined in that second half of the Liverpool game, where we came out really, really sat back, really invited the pressure, as opposed to going at Liverpool like we did in the first half and extending our lead. And I feel like that's a big aspect of our game that's been lost, and I think that is where it's come to fruition, like in this Newcastle game recently, where we're 1-0 down against what would have been the game plan of maybe going at Newcastle and getting an early lead and then sitting back, and now we've got the rest of the game to try and make up for it. And I think that loss is something that is really reflected in our output, in our stats. I mean, compared to last season, per 90, less XG, less goals, less shots, and less shot creating actions, and that's including games with Martin Odegaard. So it's not just him missing, it's also an attitude and a system change, which I think has really, really taken us a step back almost this season.
Yeah, well, I've got another stat for you as well, mate. Of the 10 games that Arsenal have played in the Premier League so far this season, in 7 of them, Arsenal have failed to create an XG of over 1 from open play. And the 3 games they did were Brighton over Albion, Leicester and Southampton. So 2 sides who are very much in a relegation fight as well. So the optics of it don't look good. I wonder from the psychological perspective, I wonder if that the outside scrutiny, all the talk about Arsenal, Arsenal need to be going at it, all the pundits, the mainstream media, the fans ourselves saying Arsenal need to be a bit more attacking, they need a bit of X factor. I wonder if all of that has got to Arteta and the players, and then they've gone, okay, no, we need to double down on what we're really good at, because when we were trying to be attacking 2 seasons ago, in that season where you finished second and got 84 points, where you were like, we were too attacking, we were too focused on the ball, everything positive and attacking. Maybe they were like, okay, what worked for us and what really got us, a lot of plaudits, and what we did well was, we were defending really well, we were keeping clean sheets, and that was what got Arsenal a fantastic second half of the season run last year, where I think it was pretty much from the Fulham game, they more or less, I think they didn't drop points apart from to Villa, I think it was, where they lost the game, in the Man City where they drew.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's something in that psychologically, where they're just not caved in, not bottled, but they're just reading too much into it and they're just not going out with the freedom to express themselves. Is there something in that at all?
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a really good point. And I think in terms of the progress that we made between the 2022-23 season, like you said, where we looked really good attacking wise, and then in that second half of the season, our defence was really poor. And that increase to where last season we got our best ever points total in the Premier League season was because we improved our defence. The difference, I think, between the change in those two seasons improving our defence is that our attacking output didn't really drop that much. Yes, in the big games we did see ourselves sit back a little bit and be a bit more conservative, and I think that worked really, really well, and I think maybe that's carried on through to this season. But I think the change from last season to this season is that attacking output has dropped, and it has dropped pretty significantly. And I think part of that, is that change in mindset, is that mentality shift from Arteta, maybe thinking, oh, we improved from last season by improving our defence, let's try and do that again and really focus on that as one of the best aspects of our game. But I think that really undermines what we did last season and how I think at times we were really well-rounded. I mean, we had that run of away games where we were winning 4, 5, 6-0, whereas now this season it's away games that we're winning. Well, we're not winning them. We're not winning them with Newcastle and Bournemouth, so definitely a change there. And I think that change is reflected maybe in the formation that we're playing recently as well. As I said, it's looking more like a 4-4-2 when we're also on the ball. And that change in midfield from a midfield 3 to a midfield 2, I think has really restricted the chances that we're creating centrally. It's becoming really over-reliant, I think, on our wing play with Saka and Martinelli being sort of the main outlets, not having someone in that little pocket of space when we've got control on the ball in the final third. And again, like you said, I think maybe part of that is because when we have been defending well and we have been sitting back, or even when we have been pressing and defending well, is when we're in that 4-4-2 shape. And with Odegaard out and Trossard playing as that second striker, I think Arteta trying to shift that more towards the 4-4-2 for a bit more stability isn't what we need at the moment. And we need something that's a bit more attacking and is going to improve our chance creating output. With Odegaard coming back, probably will shift back to a change. I hope that it's going to improve our performances and I hope that it's going to improve our sort of chance creation, but I don't think it's going to be an instant fix at all. Besides, obviously, Odegaard coming back, how do you see it? What do Arsenal need to change, need to improve, and do so quickly, really, to get back into form before things start to go even worse than they are in the last few weeks?
I don't, like I said earlier on, I think when you're losing, everything's the worst thing in the world, and when you're winning, nothing can go wrong. I don't think it's as bad as we're all making it out to be. That's why I really wanted to discuss it with you, because I really wanted to flesh out the whole topic of Arsenal and what they're doing. Because, 10 games, 18 points, it's not exactly what you were hoping for, especially when you're chasing the juggernaut that's Man City. I suppose when I look at it, the dropping of points, of so many points so early on, means that I did the maths, and if you win every game between now and the end of the season, the remaining 28 games, you'll end up on 102 points, which obviously that's great, but you don't expect Arsenal to do that. So I guess the thing is, considering you got 89 points last season, the margin of error to show that you are either as good as you were last season or even better, that margin of error is very, very little now, and then you can't really afford to drop too many points because you have dropped so many so far this season. But maybe if you look at it from another perspective, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe you need this, and now you're going to just go on this amazing run from now to the end of the season. Who really knows? It's hard to predict what's going to happen, who's going to get what injuries, what form the players are going to be in. You really don't know, and we're just trying to speculate and what this form means for Arsenal later down the season. I do think that when Martin Odegaard does return to the team, there is so much pressure then to then go, okay, you've got no more excuses. That's it. Martin Odegaard is back. Bukayo Saka's fit. You've got a full defence. No one's red carded. You've got no suspensions. All injuries are good. Now be amazing. And if you're not, then I think the wheels of the fan base and potentially everyone else looking from the outside will just go, well, this outside just aren't really good enough. They can't be competing for the league. And I think there is a little bit of jealousy because of how good Arsenal have been the last 2 seasons, that everyone, everyone admires them and like appreciates them for how good they are. But we're all secretly hoping that the wheels fall off and this ends up in a car crash because we're all rival fans. We want to see our team do well. We want to see our rivals do not so well. So yeah, I think Arsenal will be fine. I think they are in the title race. They're still in the title race, and I think that yeah, it'll be close. They haven't made them easy for themselves, but I do think that it's. I know we say don't look at the table until 10 games. I know it's 10 games now. We're looking at we're maybe dismissing Arsenal, but they're still only 5 points behind Man City, and I still don't think it's the end of the world because they still have the set pieces which they're really good at, and maybe they're over-reliant, but they still have those. They still have world-class players in Odegaard, Saka, Saliba, David Raya. I think they will be fine. Arteta will find a way. It's just if everything can click and Arteta can find a way before results get too bad and then they're chasing Man City by too far. What would you say? Arsenal, 5th place at the moment, 10 games. Still in the title race?
Yeah, I definitely think we are. As we said, it is only 10 games into the season, still a long, long way to go. And I think, like I said, before that Bournemouth game, looking at results, yes, we haven't played well, but we were still getting them. And it even felt like the games where we weren't getting results, there was a reason potentially in all of them. The Brighton game, we had the red card. The Bournemouth game, we also had the red card. I think this Newcastle game is maybe where the excuses are starting to run a little bit thin, where it only feels like Odegaard was out. And now, as you said, I think when he's back, that's where it's going to be the real test. And I certainly think we're going to be able to bounce back, certainly tweak a few things and start getting results back again, even if maybe the style of play is a little bit less sustainable in terms of output and scoring goals. I certainly think there's enough quality in the side and enough quality in the coaching staff to change things and get our season a little bit back on track, because it has only really been those Newcastle and Bournemouth losses that I think are sort of the big head loss in terms of the fan base. That Liverpool game in the middle, I think, was a decent result against a really in-form Liverpool side. Maybe, as I said previously, that second half being a little bit of a dampener on that. But yeah, there's certainly still hope, and I think we can't really assess it too much until sort of we get to that Christmas period, once we're almost halfway through the season, and then you can really judge how it is. But for now, Arsenal still certainly in the title race, still a lot of quality, just a few little tweaks, and I think a big win away at Chelsea in our next Premier League game could be something that hopefully kicks us back into gear a little bit, because I think that's all we need more than anything, as opposed to any sort of drastic changes.
Yeah, well, I was actually going to ask you on that because, a big week, especially after you lost to Newcastle, you've got Inter Milan away in the Champions League, which is not going to be easy whatsoever. And then you've also got Chelsea. Is that at Stamford Bridge?
Yes, yeah, that's Chelsea away as well. So yeah. 3 away games on the bounce.
Yeah, I mean, what happens if... Just run me through it quickly. What happens if Arsenal win it against Chelsea? What happens if they draw? And what happens if they lose?
I think if we win, that's going to be a huge confidence boost, and one that I feel like is needed. I think we need to get a game where we have a decent amount of possession, where we create a lot of chances, and the players really want to prove to themselves more than anything that they've still got it. Get a goal for a few players who maybe need one. Looking at Havertz and Martinelli, I think could do with a goal in a big game would be really good for them. I think a draw away, it depends on how we play. I think if we play well and we still score a goal or two, I think won't be the end of the world. I think if we lose that game, that's going to be really disappointing in terms of the opponent, I guess, more than anything than the result, because Chelsea have seen an upturn this season. They are a rival of ours. They are a London rival, and I think for the players to maybe see that shift in terms of how Chelsea have improved to maybe then in turn how Arsenal have gotten worse, I think that's going to be bad more for the mentality for the future games, as opposed to it is to dropping points, because I think points can be made up, but I think a run of a lack of confidence, of a shift in mentality to a side that's struggling to win, I think will have a lot more effect on our season than, say, just dropping 3 points on a weekend. So more so of an impact of the season as a whole as opposed to the points themselves.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to that Arsenal-Chelsea game, because I think there's been a few of them this season where I think going into, we've been a bit unsure about some teams, how good they are, where they're going to be. And so we've been looking at and isolating fixtures. Like, I think we looked at Liverpool-Chelsea is like, okay, how good are the Liverpool side or how good is this Chelsea side? And we learned that, both sides are, pretty good, and we didn't really learn too much from that. And I think we did that was the same for the Liverpool Arsenal game as well. We learned both sides are good, didn't really learn too much. And then I think like this Arsenal Chelsea one is the next one where we're like, okay, how good? Because I think the biggest statement that can come out is I really want to see a result in this game. I'll be honest. Whichever way, I really want to see a result. I either want to see Arsenal win, and then go, okay, no, you know what? Everyone just calm down a bit. We're still in the title race. We're not too far away. Or I want Chelsea to win, and then go, look, lads. All the stick we're getting over the summer transfer window, we're here to stay. And if you're considering Arsenal for a title race, then you've got to be considering us as well. I don't really think Chelsea are in the title race, but at least I want them to put down a marker. So I'm really looking forward to that game, and I think that's going to be, very, very interesting. But could I ask you, because we're recording this on the Monday evening, this morning news came out that Edu, Arsenal sporting director, is going to be leaving his role. Well, it's not official, but it is believed to be that he's going to be leaving his role and joining Nottingham Forest owner Mary. I scribbled his name and I can't even read my own writing. Do you know what his name is, Tobes?
Is it Marek Ellis? I think it's something like that, isn't it? I haven't got it written down either, but...
Okay, yeah, something like that. The Greek guy who...
Yes.
Well, actually, is he Greek?
Yeah, he's the Greek owner. He's like owns the group. It's Forest, Olympiacos, and I think Rio Ave, maybe in Portugal.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because I knew he owned Olympiacos, but I was like, well, it doesn't necessarily mean he's Greek, so I wasn't sure. Anyway, I've rambled on and fumbled this one a little bit, but okay, Toby, Eddie's leaving. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a big loss. It's a big loss behind the scenes, and especially in terms of transfer windows. I think he was sort of the key strategy manager in terms of that, the key man in terms of negotiations. It sounded like a lot of work behind the scenes, and in terms of sort of the overall sporting direction of the club. I think maybe in terms of the football, it shouldn't affect too much. I don't think he was involved particularly tactically or coaching wise, but I think behind the scenes, and I think potentially what we could see in the next transfer windows is a change in strategy, and potentially worse off, because it seemed like he had a big impact for that. So it's definitely lost for us, and I think the timing of him leaving is difficult given the form of the club, which is annoying. It's just another little jab for Arsenal fans to have to deal with. But I think the sounds of it isn't necessarily in terms of him jumping ship. I think the role he's been offered at the Forest Football Group, by the sounds of it, is that it might be a CEO position, which I think is something that he was trying to push to become at Arsenal. It sounds like it's going to be a big jump in salary. I think it's going to be almost triple his salary. Rumours are saying, I think I read an Independent, they were saying it's going to be potentially that big. So for him to be able to make that jump in his career makes sense, and hopefully it's not a jumping ship case, and that things aren't bad behind the scenes for Arsenal, because I think that's the last thing we need at this exact moment in time. So fingers crossed for that.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I mean, I didn't see the thing about it being triple his salary, but if it is, I mean, if in any other walk of life, you're getting a promotion with another company in a bigger role with more power, and you're also going to triple someone's salary, it's kind of like a no-brainer, isn't it? You go for it, don't you? So I think the timing of it is what Arsenal probably least wanted. But I think also you don't know how this information gets out. Was it like planned for a specific time? Was it planned for today? Was it meant to come out on this Monday? And if so, like maybe they could have changed that. But also you don't know what I can't say his name. Nottingham Forest
owner.
The Nottingham Forest owner, like, if there was a leak maybe from the Nottingham Forest side or Olympiacos, were they wanting to, get this out because they wanted Edu to come over to theirs really quickly? You don't really know how this information gets out, and so maybe the timing couldn't be helped whatsoever. I would say, though, it is a blow, because he has been, part of the face of this Arsenal rebuild along with Mikel Arteta. You see his picture alongside with a lot of the players when they sign from another club, or when they sign a new contract when they're already at the club. And so he's also a sporting director, which, I had a lot of knowledge about. He's very visible in the public eye. And maybe, maybe the new sport director who comes in, maybe he needs to be a little bit more in the shadows and just get on with the work and let Arteta get on with it and let Arteta be the face. But whatever happens, I think, there's an opportunity. You've got to think of it as an opportunity to get someone who's even better than the guy who's just leaving. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I think he has been a bit hit and miss. I mean, if you think about Arsenal really wanted Mudryk, didn't get him. They really wanted Benjamin Sesko this summer, didn't really want him. What's the truth in all of that? We don't really know. But yeah, I don't think it's the end of the road. And if he is going to Forest, he's certainly be getting an upgrade because Nottingham Forest, third in the Premier League. And I suppose just all we can really start with the segment on Forest is just saying, Nuno Espirito Santo, we're really, really sorry.
Yeah, I don't think anyone saw this coming, to be honest. I think end of last season, they weren't in great form, pretty mixed. A few sort of wins dotted here and there, but were still hovering around the relegation zone, stayed up, did enough. Not huge, massive, drastic changes over the summer, not some incredible sort of headline-grabbing signings. I mean, they made some great signings who have played really, really well, which I'm sure we'll be touching on because they've made a massive difference, but nothing that I think really enabled us or even potentially Forest fans, I think, to predict how well they've been playing. And even the first few games of the season when we were doing it, we thought, oh, they've started well, waiting for them to drop off, waiting for them to fall down. And they've just kept going. 5 wins, 4 draws, only the 1 loss, up into third. Couldn't ask for more, really, could they? It's been unbelievable.
Mate, I don't think anyone would have predicted this. We definitely need to find out if anyone put a bet on Nottingham Forest to win the league, because it could be like absolute Leicester City scenes here. But yeah, I'm trying to think, because obviously, oh God, I mean, I just blatantly have to say I just got it completely wrong. I mean, I put Nottingham Forest 17th in my Premier League predictions. Do you remember where you put them? Did you put them 17th or did you put them 18th?
I had them 18th, yeah. I had them to go down. I thought they were the weakest of the sides who stayed up last season, and I thought it just made sense that that's going to carry on and they'll go down this season, where it feels like now they've almost done enough already. They've just got to win a couple games more and they'll be staying up. So absolutely nowhere near that. Yeah, completely put my hands up and say shocking from me.
Yeah, but this is the thing, because it's fine now, 10 games in, to go, oh, it's, Nottingham Forest, what a side, what great players, and we are absolutely going to be doing that. But it is interesting. I'm trying to think of why I didn't. And one of the big things for me was I didn't think Nuno was a very good manager. Yeah, and I'm trying to think of why I thought that, because, at his time with Wolves was really, really good. I think I was very much maybe plagued, and this is something for a self-reflection, a self-learning for like future managers and future predictions, is I was just plagued by his time at Spurs. I mean, he didn't, what did he last 3-4 months at best, really? And then he went off to the Saudi Pro League, he came back. I mean, Forest did really quite well. I mean, picking up, I think, 1.1 points per game since he came in. It was enough to get him, get Nottingham Forest out of the relegation zone and safe. I did think that Steve Cooper was potentially harshly sacked, but I didn't think that Nuno was a massive upgrade. But I just don't think anyone saw this. And so, yeah, let's actually try and break it down, because otherwise we'll just be here with our mouths wide open for the rest of the for our chat. But yeah, I think Nuno has to take a lot of the credit for all this, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, like you said, I don't think he was a great manager, but I think the way he's got Forest playing has just worked really well with the squad he's got and the system that he's playing at the moment. And I think for them to be able to keep up that form, I think is more than anything. It might not obviously be the most sustainable, and I don't think they're going to be winning sort of as many games or picking up as many points throughout the whole season. But I think to start this season this well, it's going to be a huge boost for them for the rest of the season anyway. So it's almost a double-edged win that they're picking up huge points, and to get their confidence up now whilst they're playing so well is fantastic. I'd love to hear what you think the main reason is why they've improved so much and why they've started the season going so well, because I've got a couple points, but it's not glaringly obvious to me. So I'd love to hear what you make of it, really.
Oh God. I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think one singular thing could have this much of an impact. I think it's a mixture of, I think the squad building over the summer was really really good. I think they shipped out a lot of players which were just not being used. A lot of the deadwood. We constantly talked about how many transfers Nottingham Forest had to make and the amount of players that were on the books. I mean, they're almost Chelsea before Chelsea in some regards in that way. And I think they really slimmed the squad down over the summer. And the players that they brought in were absolute quality. I mean, Milenkovic from Fiorentina, again, I think I've said it before, but like the price I bought him for and the fact that he's just slotted in, and he probably could have gone to a team who were better than Nottingham Forest, no disrespect intended, but we're not where Nottingham Forest are. That's he's probably found a decent level there. But I think he's been amazing. I think Elliot Anderson in midfield has been a revelation. I always thought he was a talented player at Newcastle, and now seeing him week in week out, I'm like, oh my god, he is like a proper serious player. I mean, maybe you start to look at Eddie Howe and think, why weren't you playing him a little bit more often? Yeah, you got that as well. I think the wide player is amazing. I think Chris Wood is just, I mean, at 32 years of age, a proper journeyman who's, I think, been to like over a dozen clubs in his career in England. The fact that now at 32, he's now, look at the Premier League top goal scorers and he's second, joint with Brian and Buemo behind Haaland. It is a very weird picture, but I just think the personnel, the transfers, tactically, I think the flexibility from defending really deep inside their own box to then all of a sudden they're pressing very high up and doing it effectively. I think that catches a lot of teams off guard. And you think to themselves, oh, maybe they've had an easy run of fixtures. I mean, they beat Liverpool at Anfield, one of the hardest things to do. They drew with Chelsea, who everyone's now like, how good is this Chelsea side? There's not one single thing which is there's not a singular thing which is the whole reason for them being successful. It's a mixture of just absolutely everything. And now they've got momentum. Now they've got a feel good spirit around the City ground. And just go for it. Just see how far you can go because, why the hell not?
Yeah, all really, really good points. And I agree with a lot of them. I think the squad aspect of that certainly was for me a key point that I've got noted down. And I think especially in terms of their matchday squad and their starting 11 has been really consistent, especially in the last 5 or 6 games. It's been the same starting 11 almost, and the back 5, including the goalkeeper, has been really consistent and been great. As you said, Milenkovic has come in, as well as Moreno, a left back, which I think was such a good acquisition. I think he was really good at Villa, and I was surprised that they let him go. I think it's only on loan, but even then, really surprised that was the case. Ola Aina and Murillo, someone who we've talked about since he's signed for Forest, he's been a revelation the whole time he's been there. I really, really like him. And I think having that consistency has been huge for them because last season they were chopping and changing all the time. Murillo had a different centre-back partnership every week, different midfielders sitting in front of him every week, and now they've got that consistency. It's really worked, and they're in a really good rhythm, which I think is a massive thing for them. Yeah, like you said, I think it's a number of small changes. Like looking at their stats, not much has particularly changed in terms of defensive actions, attacking actions, chance creation, even things like goals scored. It's not really changed too much. One point that you made that I really agree with too is how quickly they're sort of moving the ball up the pitch this season, which I think is a potential little change where the possession they have in their defensive third has decreased and the percentage that they have in their attacking third has shot up. So touches in both as well has decreased in that defence and increased in that attack, and that's been something that I think has helped them get that ball obviously away from the danger zone and get into the opponent's danger zone. Really simple change, move that ball quicker, get it up the pitch quicker, and it's helped them in both departments, in their attack and the defence. And second best defence in the league this season and second top scorer with Chris Wood. Absolutely beautiful.
Mate, he is doing wonders for my fantasy football team. I put him in from game week 1 and it was so weird because obviously I predicted Nottingham Forest not to do well, but I still got Chris Wood in my fantasy football team. It just the thinking didn't line up, but it just worked for me. And yeah, 8 goals so far this season, and yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely over the moon. Do you have Chris Wood in your team, mate?
Nope, and that's why I am behind you in our mini league.
Ah, Toby, what do you do? Why? To be fair, they've got a tough run of fixtures coming up, which we'll touch on a little bit in a bit. But yeah, I mean, 8 goals from an XG of 4.51. So maybe he is overperforming a little bit. I mean, no one expected him to be joint second highest goal scorer in the Prem at this stage. Um, but yeah, a goal every 101 minutes. I mean, yeah, I think the best thing they're doing for Chris Wood is they're playing to his strengths more than anything else. They're not trying to, play the balls into the channels. They're playing the balls aerially, they're hitting the target man, and they're letting him cause havoc and do what he does best. And I think that you have to give credit to Nuno for, because so many teams play variations of the same way, really, and not just from Pep Guardiola's, and everyone plays a variation of playing out from the back or tiki-taka or whatever you want to call it. But I just think with Forest, it's so refreshing as well just to see a different style of play. They're much more forward, like you said. They get the ball to the front men much quicker. And then they lump the ball into the box and let Chris Wood do what he does best. And why would you, when you have a striker of his capabilities, why would you want him to do anything else? And yeah, sometimes I think managers can maybe overcomplicate it. Maybe, if anything, for Chris Wood, Nuno has just simplified it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want him particularly joining up and linking the play. They've got a number 10 to do that, whether that's Gibbs White or Anderson, someone to drop in and pick the ball up from the defence or from the deep line midfielders. Keep Chris Wood on that last man as a target man outlet if needed for the long balls. But ideally, you want to be working that down the wing, getting the ball, crossed it in early onto his head, or running down and pulling it back on the byline, because he doesn't really need much to get a goal. This season, he's only having around 2 shots per 90, and he's got 8 goals in 10 games. And last season, he had 14 goals, and he only had about 1.5 shots per 90 on average. So compared to the elite strikers in the elite teams who are getting 4-5 shots per game, he's beating them in terms of output, and he doesn't need high quality chances to be able to put the ball in the back of the net. He needs a few a game. And I think that, like you said, the rest of his game isn't elite and outstanding, but that's not what Nottingham Forest need, and that's not what Chris Wood is there for. He's there to score, and that's, even if that is potentially maybe all he does, as some people might not see him as an elite striker, it doesn't matter, because he fits that Nottingham Forest system so well, and it's working well for him and the team. And
mate, he's also mixed 6 big chances so far this season. So there's a chance he could be on more goals than Erling Haaland. That is, oh god, that is a weird stat. I mean, if imagine that Erling Haaland is not fit enough to lace Chris Wood's boots. Oh my god, what does the world come to? But yeah, I suppose the big question with Forest is it sustainable? Because coming up, they've got Newcastle at home, Arsenal away, Ipswich at home, Man City away, Man United away, Aston Villa at home in the next 6. And they probably are going to drop some points. Let's be real. They're going to drop some points. It's not going to win every single one of those games. If they were to win every one of those games, then I think, a Leicester City-esque season is maybe potentially on. But they are likely going to drop points. They're probably not going to be in the top 4. They were probably maybe hoped to be in the top 10 based on how well they started this season. And they may have a bit of a stinker between now and the end of the season and may end up in the bottom half. But I think we just need to give credit and acknowledge the fact that I think you, me, most people in the football community were just wrong about Forest this season, weren't we? But how sustainable do you think this run is, and are they going to drop off anytime soon?
I think if all those fixtures weren't there sort of in a row, besides that Ipswich game obviously being a bit of an outlier in terms of difficulty, I think they could certainly carry on, because a lot of it is form and momentum and consistency, which they seem to have. And even if this is their only sort of great period of the season, to be able to do that for 10 games at the start of the season from how they were last season is a huge accomplishment, and one that shouldn't be sort of underappreciated. It is just very difficult now that they've got this really tough run, and they may need to shift that mentality a little bit to sort of going at games and really winning and looking really positive, to maybe just being a little bit more conservative and not getting too carried away. Because I think if they can get through this stretch of games without really dropping off, then I think after that it can carry on and they can pick it back up and get to how they're playing at the moment. So it's not a massive make or break for me unless they go out and play really, really poorly and really struggle to pick up any points in these games. I think if they can, for example, get a draw at Newcastle, beat Ipswich and get at least a draw at United and Villa, and then maybe lose those Arsenal and City games, I think that still is a fantastic set of results. One they would have 100% taken at the start of the season, and then maybe after that Villa game, shift back into that mentality of how they're playing at the moment, where they're really going for it, and then that can continue, and they could have a really strong season. That sort of high mid-table is potentially on if they can get through this run. So, yeah, it's as tough as it looks. We've seen stranger things, haven't we?
Of course you want Forest to lose that Arsenal game, mate, don't you?
I'm just saying Arsenal and City away, last season's top two, despite how we're playing. It's, surely they've got to be the two toughest fixtures, you'd think. Although, or also potentially Liverpool away, that should be the toughest one. They still got 3 points there.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. I deserve that one.
Just sticking that in, yep.
yeah. Well, so... Yeah, because Man City and Arsenal did drop points on the weekend. I'm just trying to recover from that burn. They did drop points, both of them on the weekend, which now mean that Liverpool are top. And it's a very strange week, I think it's fair to say, because I think going into it, a lot of people were like, there's some dodgy fixtures here and you don't know at all what's going to happen. And in that, we had some unexpected results, one of them being Man City losing to Bournemouth, but based on how good a manager Iraola is and how well Bournemouth have done so far this season, maybe we shouldn't have been as surprised as we were, should we?
Yeah, the Vitality Stadium, the Coliseum this season, the absolute giant slayers. Two fantastic results for Bournemouth, and yeah, they've had some good results against City, especially at the Vitality sort of over recent years. So it wasn't a guarantee, I think, when Arsenal lost that City were going to go and pick up 3 points and extend that lead. Rodri obviously being a big loss. We've talked about it so much, but he is. They lost against Spurs in midweek 2, and the next 3 fixtures aren't easy. They've got Sporting away, which Amorim, I'm sure, will want to finish his tenure there on a positive with a big result. Brighton away, again, another potential bogey teams for City at time, and then Spurs again, but luckily this time at the Etihad for them. So yeah, they've not got an easy run, and this is where it could be a little period where maybe Liverpool extend that lead in the Prem. Is that crazy to even suggest that?
I don't know, mate. Liverpool have got Aston Villa at home on the weekend, which is not going to be easy because I think we've generally beaten Villa, but there are some dodgy fixtures in there, dodgy results in there. I think it was a COVID year. We lost 7-2 or something crazy, which a fixture just that does not get remembered as much as it probably should do. I think Villa are a tough side. I think for me, I'm just enjoying the ride. If I'm being honest, I have no idea what's going to happen, and at this stage of the season, it really doesn't matter. It's just about trying to win as many games as possible. I think after the international break, in early December, I think Liverpool have got Man City. I want to say I think it's away, and we've also got Everton in the Merseyside derby. So there's a couple more tests. I'm not ready to, say Liverpool are going to pull away from anyone. I'm not ready to say Liverpool are in the title race. It's just too early for me, and there's still a couple more ups and downs that I want to see this team and Arne Slot actually more than anything else navigate before I'm like, okay, Liverpool are going to pull away or Liverpool are going to do this or that. I'm not there yet, but I am still keeping an eye on City because while they have had a lot of injuries, because it's Man City, because of how dominant they've been, because of how much money they spent, no one will give them any sympathy, but they have had a lot of injuries, and if anyone was missing the amount of injuries they have, then you'd be hearing it from everyone, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think that's very fair, and I think that's very sensible as well, because I think as good as Liverpool's results have been, and maybe playing and performing better than people would have thought due to the transition from Klopp to Slot, I don't think you've been sort of exceptional. I don't think you've been as good as you have been in seasons gone by. I don't think maybe you've been as good as City were obviously last season or the season before that. So I think, like you said, I think it's a good run of form, and it'll be good to see how I guess sustainable that is for Liverpool as well, because playing really, really well at the moment. How long does it last? Does a loss sort of, as you said, against Villa really sort of knock you back potentially? But yeah, just gotta keep going. Hope that I guess the teams around you drop points like City whilst they've got a few funny fixtures.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it pains to be words. I messed that up completely. Anyway, I was trying to transition from that into the quiz, but that was
So
awful.
smooth, seamless.
That was awful. I was just like, what? What did I just say? Anyway, we're on the quiz.
Hell yes, it's time for Guess the Club, where we'll be giving each other 5 players who have all played for the same club. The earlier you can guess the club that is, the more points that you get. And we have done a series of these quizzes over various videos that we filmed with each other. We've done 8 so far. The scores are currently 18 points to you, Mevin, and 22 points to myself. So a little gap there, which I'm not going to complain about so far. So I hope you've made it super tough for me this week.
Well, are we keeping track of the scores? Because, we've moved channels. We come over to mine now. Are
Oh,
we
here
keeping
we
track?
go. Here we go.
Oh, fine, fine. What you said was, I'm on 18, you're on 22.
Yes.
Oh, dear. Okay. Well, I definitely need to catch up, and that is a very poor showing. Okay. So, do you want to go first, or do you want to go, shall I go first this time?
I'm going to give you your players first, because I think
Oh,
I went
great.
first last week. So if you're ready, I'll give you your first player for 5 points.
Yeah, go on.
And that is Michy Batshuayi.
Oh my God, literally been everywhere. So I've got Chelsea in my head. I've got Dortmund in my head. Did he go to AC Milan? Was he at? Jesus, was he in Monaco? Was he anywhere else? Was he in the Premier League? He was somewhere else in the Premier League. Chelsea? No, never else. He was everywhere. Where do I think? What road do I think you're going down with this? I'm gonna say Chelsea.
It is not Chelsea,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Your second player for 4 points is Paco Alcacer. Or Alcácer. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Yeah. Don't worry. That pause. You said it right, and I heard you. When you just don't remember a player. I just don't remember him.
If you know the club that is the answer, then he had a really lovely little stint there.
No, you're gonna tell me, and I'll know straight away. But I just don't remember him. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go back to Michy Batshuayi, and I'm gonna say Borussia Dortmund.
And he's pulled it out of the bag on that for 4 points. Very nice, mate.
Oh my days.
Yeah, Alcácer had I think he had a season on loan there and then a season like permanent there, and he got like almost a goal a game or something ridiculous. He was so good. Yeah, Batshuayi had a loan there where he was really good too. Third player would have been Mark Bartra, then Mkhitaryan and Shinji Kagawa. So yeah, great 4 points for you there. That ties it up at the moment.
Remind me, what nationality is Alcacer?
Spanish.
Is he the striker?
Yes, yeah.
For some reason, I wrote Alcaraz, and I was just in my head. I was just like midfielder, defensive midfielder. Who are you? The striker.
Yeah, so underrated. He was
Okay,
on his
yes.
day. He was quality. Such good finisher.
Yes, the one who was balding a bit or had receding hairline.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I don't feel like a complete idiot.
No, great. 4 points, mate. Not at all. That's a great pull.
Now let's see if you can. So technically, I'm level. So let's see. Let's see if you can catch up then, Topes.
Oh, dear we go. Here we go. Come on.
So your first player for 5 points is Nigel de Jong.
Nigel de Jong. I feel like I've had him as a first player before from you. I think the only clubs I know, City. Pretty sure he did AC Milan. Pretty sure he did one of the Dutch clubs, I think Ajax, and I'm pretty sure he did Hamburg. Okay, that's actually a decent selection. City, no. AC Milan, no, they're too obvious. Let's go for Hamburg.
That is not the right club I'm looking for, unfortunately, mate. So your second player is Andre Schürrle.
Schürrle. Oh, he's done hundreds of clubs. Chelsea, Fulham, Wolfsburg, Schalke, Dortmund. Where else has he been? Let's think of Nigel de Jong's clubs. Schürrle hasn't done AC Milan. He hasn't done City. Pretty sure Schürrle's never been to the Eredivisie. Fulham stuck out. Did de Jong go to Fulham for a bit? Yeah, let's try it. Fulham.
It is not Fulham, unfortunately. Your third player for 3 points is Lewis Holtby.
Holtby. And it's not Hamburg. That's annoying. Could be Schalke. Holtby's done Fulham as well. He's also done Spurs, but Schürrle hasn't. He's done a Spanish club as well, Holtby, but I don't know it. I think it would be silly not to go for Schalke. So let's go for Schalke.
It's not Schalke, unfortunately, mate.
Oh,
No, it's okay.
on.
It's okay. Your fourth player is Loris Karius.
What on earth is this? Gareth has done Liverpool, Newcastle. It can't be either of those. Where was Karius at before?
You haven't said the club yet, mate, is what I'll tell you.
It could be Dortmund, maybe. Oh, I know. Oh, where was Karius at before? I feel like I know it as well. Struggling here, struggling. De Jong, Schürrle. Where's Schürrle? Schürrle's been at Dortmund, which I haven't said. Could it be like a Turkish side or something as well? Let's go for Dortmund.
It's not Dortmund, unfortunately, mate.
No.
And so your last player for 1 point is Jurgen Klopp.
I was going to say potentially this before. I'm pretty sure it has to be Mainz. I'm pretty sure that's the club that he played for the most. Yeah, even if it's wrong, let's go for Mainz.
Yes, he's finally got there.
For the point.
That
was a good one.
Mate, I was impressed with your knowledge throughout.
Yeah, Holtby, Schürrle and de Jong, they are really good obscure Mainz players. I'll be keeping those in the bank for future quiz questions. But
yeah,
mate, Karius, I could potentially should have known that, I think.
Andre Schürrle started his career at Mainz before he joined Leverkusen, which is where a lot of people think he started. Well, that's where he really became prominent, isn't it? Nigel de Jong was there in 2018 for I think only 6 months between Galatasaray and Al Ahly. Lewis Holtby was there in 10-11 season on loan from Schalke, and Loris Karius was there between 2011 2016, and Jurgen Klopp was obviously there between 1990 and 2001.
Nice. That was a good one. I liked that. That was tough. I enjoyed that one. So yeah, just a slender 1 point lead now.
Yes.
If you're happy now to carry on keeping score now that you've got the lead, Mev.
No, you have the lead.
Now that it's narrower. Sorry, now that it's narrower.
No, absolutely not, mate. I've won this one. It's 1-1.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, well, join us next week to see what happens next in the quiz, and I'm sure we'll be talking everything about the Premier League, including probably the Arsenal-Chelsea game as well. So join us next week. Thank you for watching.